Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And listen to this thing on the Believe Podcast Network. Travis, I'm going to pull people in behind the curtain a little bit on this one, right? And during the week, obviously, I call the man my personal champion because, you know, we tight, we family, we go to each other's kids' birthday parties and do all the thing. It's a fun time. What was the last thing? The monster truck rally? We need to catch up. Anyways, he and I texted about having a breakout show. And, you know, I had a little trouble understanding what the text was at first. And he's like, no, well, there's all these other players that could do it, like this guy and Wyatt Milum. And I said to him in that text, ain't nobody going to put an offensive guard as a breakout player. And here's the thing. This happened early Wednesday before the stream. And sure enough, that's not the right one. It's this one. Tapa, a.k.a. Florida Made Me in the comments, says Wyatt Milum could have a breakout year. Now, with as well as you Duval Divers made my one-off go last week, I wasn't able to play this clip for how I performed. Now I have to for that statement. Travis can now officially say this.
You are the dumbest effing MFer I've ever seen. You don't know S. How in the world can you even have a job? How can you even have a family? You're a moron. You're an idiot. You're a effing dumb effer. How could you even have that opinion? Go die.
I deserved that, and I am not above the law. I had to play the clip on myself, Travis.
Ouch. I mean, I'm sorry. Jesus,
no.
that's
don't
rough.
Apologize. Understand, my friend. This is all comedy because when I found out that the divers in the comments are bringing up offensive linemen in a way I didn't have faith in, I was still happy. This left me with a different impression.
How good is that?
So what is there to be sad about?
They know ball.
They know ball. Speaking of knowing ball, going to this front office that's known balls in ways that just hasn't happened lately until this past year. Another fascinating thing developing in the chamber here. Jake Bobo, before we get into our breakout tiers, by the way, listen, I'll even quickly, we're going to do a whole tier list thing. It's going to be great. We're going to go through the players that could break out and their likelihood in doing so in our opinion. But before we get to that, Jake Bobo, Travis, talk to me.
Brother, we wrote about it on BigCatCountry.com, and for those of you who maybe just had family obligations that they had to go through, or just fun things that you just had to get into, because it's the off season. I get it. Hey, Jake Bobo, Seattle Seahawks wide receiver, was signed to a $5.5 million, 2-year offer sheet. For those of you guys who don't know, he is a younger, he's like 26, 27, big body, 6'4", 206 pounds, red zone target, a lot in that same frame as Tim Patrick, basically. Blocks well on the perimeter, essentially a Tim Patrick replacement after losing Tim Patrick and De'Ami Brown in free agency. He also plays a lot on special teams, and they also lost Dewey Winger. So that's kind of where we are with him. Overall, if you've seen his stats online, it's not something that jumps off the page, but he's exactly in that Tim Patrick role. They obviously know that they need someone like that on the roster. That's Geno Smith throwing. So if you know how long ago that was, a few years. But again, big body guy.
That catch in one-on-one coverage tight like that is awesome. Little toe drag swag. Okay.
They had to review it, but it counted. I mean, this is just one of those things. Again, the Jacksonville Jaguars need that big body guy on this roster. And the contract's not something that's going to knock your head off. And most importantly, we'll get to the stats in a little bit, just kind of show you guys how and why maybe he would have chose to sign an offer with the Jaguars. And it's one of those weird things where it's not an official signing because he's not a prototypical free agent. He is a restricted free agent for the Seahawks. But let's get into the specifics. So Albert Breer is one of the first people I saw specifically that pointed out the specifics of the contract that was offered. And it's a 2-year, $5.5 million offer sheet. $4.5 million guaranteed, with a few different, the $1.75 million signing bonus. I'm not going to go through all the specifics, but overall he has $1.5 million in incentives that if he were able to reach them, that kind of puts this up to a max value of around $7 million. I thought it was funny that they put 25 catches as the barometer, to get that $150,000, because in his best year, his rookie season, which was 2023, he had 25 targets. So this is just a guy who just hasn't had the snaps, hasn't had the routes, hasn't had the reps to be able to kind of prove himself, if that makes sense, and kind of getting over his slower 40 time. I mean, he ran like a 4.99 at his pro day coming out. So it was kind of one of those things where I'm like, ugh, I get why in that Seattle Seahawks wide receiver room he hasn't had the stats, he hasn't had the options, but I also get why he might have signed in Jacksonville. And not to overtalk this thing, but I want to just he ran 58 routes last year in 2025, 148 offensive snaps. He was only targeted 5 times, and that's including the playoffs. So 4 catches, 53 yards, 1 touchdown, both the regular season and the postseason, but 33 yards, 1 touchdown came in the postseason. So it's a small sample size, but he did lead their team in targeted separation, 4.1 yards.
Which was something you brought up a lot with DG and the separation anxiety episode. So I know that's a big thing there too. And personally, I like the Zay Jones style one-on-one catch there. Something this group has missed, one could argue, since Zay Jones was last year in the previous regime.
Marvin Jones Jr. Yeah, those types of guys. Greg Cross says Bobo equals Joey Jervelicious.
For former Tampa Bay Buccaneer receiver Joe Jerevicius. I don't think it's a perfect 1-to-1, but I could argue it's in the spirit of that player. Yeah.
I haven't heard that one in a long time, man.
Yeah, it's been a minute, but it's an interesting point.
So obviously you're in that Seattle Seahawks wide receiver room. You're behind Jackson Smith and Jig, Cooper Kupp, Rashid Shaheed. You're not.
They just ran out of room in there. I can imagine there were a lot of hugs and stuff. Hey man, good luck. Go get yours.
So this is a weird one though, because again, even Torrey Horton and Cody White got more snaps than Bobo, and that's where I'm like, I can see why he would have signed to go somewhere else, even if it ends up being technically for less money. I say technically because again, I'll talk about that in a second. But even Torrey Horton and Cody White ran more routes for Seattle, had more snaps than him. And if you can see, the 2023 season was his best season, his rookie season in Seattle. Then it kind of just is going slightly down every year since then, as they've kind of continued with the different offensive coordinators and things like that. So it's quite possible that maybe he just feels like he will be better served in a different scheme, like Liam Coen's. And you know who else was also his offensive coordinator back in 2023? Shane Walton.
Isn't that fascinating?
Jaguars passing game coordinator. So that's a guy who knows who he is, who used him pretty well in his rookie season, maybe has some visions of what he would be. Shane Waldron's no longer in Seattle. Now he's with Jacksonville. It's quite possible that maybe he got Shane's stamp of approval in this signing. It actually kind of makes sense for me.
And let's get some other cats in here making some good points. Channel member Social Alki, he's a guy who you can field on special teams immediately. Bringing up a special teams point is fascinating. And doesn't affect your draft plans. Storm the Desert jumps in.
Yes.
Yeah, the ultimate Coen guy, best blocking receiver in the league, he says, catches everything, and is a contested ball catcher, a la Keeping Up with the Joneses on that particular piece there too. So yeah, that's what we're looking at as well.
And he doesn't impact your cotton picks. Yeah. That's the other part. He's a restricted free agent like Chris Rodriguez. So he doesn't impact your comp. I mean, you heard James Gladstone say it directly. He didn't want, he was trying to make sure he hold on to those Greg Newsome, those Devin Lloyd, those Travis Etienne 2027 potential, comp picks that we have looming. Well, he's a restricted free agent. So just like Chris Rodriguez, he doesn't put those at risk by signing a guy like this.
And another guy, and another person in the comments with Robert pointing out Bobo is in the run game. Is the run game secret. If you're talking about draft picks not getting spent, you've heard me these past few weeks since the mock draft leading into the combine with Jamal St. Cyr that I've been pounding the table for a tight end. What I think is actually happening in the front office is that they're going to get the tight end they want if he's there, and if not, they have a backup plan, which I find a fascinating concept.
Yeah, and then everybody keeps talking about the money now that we finally know the numbers, because again, the Seahawks, despite what I just showed you as far as the stats, as far as the snaps and everything else going down year by year for Bobo, they still offered him $3.5 million the right of first refusal tender. So they obviously see the need to have him on the roster, just like the Jaguars obviously see the need to have a guy like that on the roster. Well, honestly, the money's it's irrelevant. Like, it truly is irrelevant. And I don't mean to say that as like it's not my money, kind of one of those thought processes. I mean to say it seems to be the exact same money that the team was paying to Tim Patrick. Like, people are looking at $5.5 million. No, it's $5.5 million over 2 years. And Tim Patrick was making $2.5 million. That was his contract from Detroit when they signed for him. That's basically $5 million over 2 years. That's not, and they didn't have to trade for the guy. They traded a 6th-round draft pick to get Tim Patrick in Jacksonville. So like, they can get the guy for no cost other than the actual, basically, $2.75 million a year. That's nothing, brother.
Mm-hmm. No, I can't front on any of that. This is one of those where we're going to be paying attention to it, assuming Seattle, well, actually, as to whether Seattle responds or not with the whole restriction concept.
That's the question. Because I asked some Seattle fans, and I was in a Seahawks Twitter space late last night, because of course I was. Anytime we have something, a guy come from another different team, I'm listening to what the other fan base says, right? And some people were asking, like, hey, why would Bobo even accept an offer sheet that pays him less in 2026? There's one of the questions that was asked. I didn't answer because it's not my space. I don't step on toes.
Well,
because
there's no state tax in Florida. There's that.
Ooh, that's a fair point. That's a good point.
I mean, hello, did we learn nothing from Calvin Ridley?
Yeah, no state taxes. That's facts. I forgot about that piece. But there's a few reasons. One of them being no state taxes versus Seattle.
And in Seattle, I'm pretty sure they have city tax there. Yeah. Okay.
So he had a guaranteed $3.5 million with Seattle, and just a guaranteed 4.5 over 2 years in Jacksonville. But in the words of a former NFL agent, always look at the guaranteed money. 4.5 is bigger than 3.5. I don't care if you get it now, you're getting it later, you're getting it. That's the biggest piece, because the other money can always be funny like that. Don't ask about AAV. Don't ask about the total contract numbers, because some of that money just be funny at the end of the contracts.
And to a lesser extent, if this offense, if this system, if this situation hasn't at least shown evidence this past year that a lot of people get their hands on the ball, even without injuries before they take place, this 25 catch thing is going to get blown out of the water quickly, right? And I get that part's only 150,000, but as you go down the line and as you read the rest of that piece, I think you got rid of that. You already got rid of the graphic.
Oh, I got you.
But as you went down the line, I don't know those who noticed, as there were more catches, as there was more yardage. There you go. I saw the wrong thing. Yep. Perfect. So like, I'm doing the math here. If he gets over 35 catches, now it's 250 incentive. If he gets more than 350 yards with the two combined there, now it's another 250 incentive. Travis, we're up to almost like nearly $1 million if he gets over 350 yards and
750,000 in 2026, 750,000 in 2027. Yeah,
there you go. So that's nothing to sneeze at either, and it affects the cap just a little less.
You're not wrong, though, but this is my biggest takeaway from this, and this is what I'm shocked, and I'm always shocked that I don't hear something in Jaguars media, because I listen to like everybody. I try to make sure I'm not repeating what other guys are saying, unless it's just, hey, we got a common thought. It is what it is. But generally, I like to know what people are talking about in these streets, via Big Cat Country, via the socials, everywhere else. But this is weird. My biggest theory, I guess, my biggest takeaway from the Bobo offer sheet situation is something that I think could favor the Jaguars moving forward. I think public perception around the league has shifted in reference to the culture for the Jaguars. Like, from the things you heard at the combine to what we've heard from free agents who want to play in Jacksonville, like actually want the team to trade for them, to what we've publicly heard from guys who even left the team, like Travis Etienne, Devin Lloyd, and De'Ami Brown. Like, they all had positive things to say about what's going on in Duval. Like, that doesn't mean that the Jaguars are going to be able to win every negotiation or every free agent acquisition, because of, this tight cap space situation. Money still matters. but it does mean that they will have the edge when attempting to sign like certain guys, like certain types of guys, if that makes sense. Like guys who may have been
at Jacksonville now in a way they hadn't before, right? And that first domino was getting Peter Baelish, aka Littlefinger, aka Trent Baalke, out the door to cast that first domino to get a player-friendly house in order in that front office. And you're seeing that reverberate.
I'm thinking about the opposite of everything we used to talk about with Trent Baalke, how they were bringing in guys and specifically saying that they were depth when they signed them. And I'm like, yo, that's not how this thing should go. It's supposed to be competition every day of the week. Like, you make guys feel uncomfortable to make them better. But like guys who may have felt held back by their original draft pick status, like undrafted free agents and things like that, guys who had to deal with bad NFL politics, or, maybe, guys who just feel like they hadn't had their fair shake in the NFL, even dealing with GMs and coaches fighting or whatever else. It's going to allow Jacksonville to get a lot of those buy low free agent options, in my opinion. Those guys who are truly like underdogs. They saw what happened in Jacksonville in 2025, and they think, you know what? I could do what fill in the blank guy did. Like, there's a list of these guys. Like, just give me a second. Let me set this up. You got Cole Van Lannon, proved himself when no one thought he was going to truly be able to have a real reason to prove himself in this 2025 Jacksonville Jaguars roster. Parker Washington on the verge of getting probably paid from the Jaguars, or if not paid from somebody else, in a room that featured Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. and all these names, and he is the one that shows out. Monteric Brown, Dennis Gardeck against the rookie, being signed to a very small contract while coming off of injury. Tim Patrick played significant snaps, man, after being traded for a 6th-round draft pick. Dewey Wingard played significant snaps despite they drafting a guy who got injured, but it was open competition everywhere around the roster. Even the Diami Brown signing, which didn't work, which is very comparable to this, it was a buy low signing, giving a guy a chance to truly bet on himself. And that's exactly what I think this is, just the kind of guy who would want to come in, play in this offense.
Man, you said it quite beautifully there. And by the way, I appreciate you resisting the urge to bring up that Cardinals catch when you mentioned Tim Patrick earlier. Anyway, yeah. And he's combined his screen names. I like it. Florida made Topo. Wyatt Milum is my dark horse breakout player of the year, and he's going to start in training camp, taking the right guard spot from Patrick McCarthy. We'll get into that later. I didn't know you were going to go all in quite that far. I would have saved it for later. There was another comment I wanted to hit that made me laugh. John G. Bro, did Frank direct that at you? Listen, I appreciate you being concerned for my well-being, John G. I am not that damn famous yet. No, that was not me. He in the full context of that clip was him basically offering up what he gets on social media when he makes a take.
Yeah.
That is a dramatization of people coming at him. He's not coming at anybody. Certainly not me. To be clear, shouts to Zenith, channel member in the comments. Good to see you jump in, bud. Social Alki, let me pull in his comment. I hit the wrong button. Poop. There we go. Jimmy Stones, King of the South. I don't think that's a incorrect take. Although he, whether Georgia is that part of the state is Southern Georgia or Northern Florida could be debated by those who don't know better. But that's a whole other question. Storm asks, this is interesting before we get into the breakout tiers, is this the best blocking skill position group in the NFL? Well, that's interesting.
Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington, absolutely. BTJ is
he's all right.
Yeah, he is this. But I'm not trying to shame the man. I'm saying that's not his game.
No, it's not his game. And usually he's so far down the field. When he's in an opportunity, the block, he'll have the advantage of the element of surprise.
But so Strange, Quintin Morris, I mean, that's actually reasonably fair. That we can talk about the offensive line, then yeah. But skill position groups, I think we might be on to something.
There you go. Fair enough. Let's see. I think we caught everything up. I think I made it clear that Brian Foster in the building.
Brian Foster, my guy.
Duval Dive Channel member, thank you for joining up. Finally made it live. Hey man, what's good with you? We're glad to have you, fam. Thank you for jumping in the comments, man.
It's a special Saturday morning one, but I love it. Let's go.
Hey, it's what it is, man. We might do more of these. Heck, if you guys want them that much, who knows? It depends on. I mean, there's some things that we got to juggle around here too, like
schedules.
Schedules, right? Exactly. I'm credentialed to cover the Orlando Storm here locally, and then there's also the Magic and all that. But we will make it work when we can.
We're not saying these tiers, man. Let's get into these developmental tiers because we got to talk about these breakout candidates because we got into Jake Bobo, but all right, who are the guys?
Let's be fair. We didn't know Bobo was a thing yet
when we created this pod.
So let's lead with that, but let's go ahead and get into it here. The tiers
first, early favorites. These are your guys who have the open runway. That's all. I just wanted to make sure the runway is open, the opportunity is there. Who are the guys who are the easy options or the easy candidates to be your breakout players, right? Like, who are the guys? Like, I think this is an easy one. I'm gonna let you start it off. Who you think the first person is? Come on.
And I got to give your graphic its credit. I did not realize you were going full graphic hype there. I like it though. I like it. Okay, yeah. So we'll get into it here. See if we can zoom in on this a bit here. But the different tiers, early favorites, open runway. I don't know who you have in mind, but the most obvious one to me, it would seem, would be Bhayshul Tuten as
there we go,
being an early favorite. See, here's the thing, and this is what I wanted to get into with you about. I don't think Bhayshul Tuten counts as a breakout player. That's how obvious he is. I don't even think he should be on this list. He's a known quantity, in my opinion. We see the opportunity there. This is a guy who has every chance to break out as the wind in this Earth, Wind, and Fire piece. Obviously, Earth would be LeQuint Allen, and then Fire, because he could do both, would be C-Rod, right? Think that Super Bowl winning Giants team that had Derek Ward, Ahmad Bradshaw, and Brandon Jacobs. It's that same concept, except LeQuint Allen ain't as big as Brandon Jacobs, but he still gets hits like that. It's okay. I'm not talking trash. So yeah, I don't think he even counts. So I mean, with that in mind, he's got to very easily go in that top tier, right? Like,
well, in my head, he counts because in 15, he averaged 5 carries a game in the 2025 season in games that he actually played in. 15 games, 83 carries, 10 receptions. If that's not a breakout candidate in my head, I don't know what is. Like, I think he's obvious because the Jaguars drafted him, so early last year with the philosophy that, Travis Etienne was going to be backed up by him or, at least give him a push. But I think the fantasy football community has been pushing that conversation more than the actual snaps on the field or the actual, targets on the field have actually produced that.
The same people that keep talking about Brian Thomas Hughes going to get traded, though, right? Yeah.
Right.
Let's listen to them, Travis. No, I'm joking.
You can tell me that that's the obvious end goal, but you got to show me on the field. And at the end of the day, you can tell me that this guy is the future. But okay, shoot, then let's see it. But 5 carries per game tells me that he is a breakout candidate, and I think he's an easy option. We don't have to belabor the point. But he absolutely is an early favorite. He has the open runway with the role that's likely going to be his early in camp, and we'll just see kind of where it lands from there.
Yeah, and another guy I'm going to take the liberty and put in the open runway here right next to him. The table's set for him in another very special way. That'd be Ventrell Miller, okay? And listen, it's mostly, I'm going to zoom this here so people can see, it's mostly because Devin Lloyd is, or rather isn't, a thing anymore, right?
Right.
So it's the pendulum swings very wide. I don't think there's much of a middle ground here. Either you've proven that you're the starting guy and the Jags will commit to you long term, or not, and you'll be headed elsewhere, right? I don't think there's much of a middle ground, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I thought it was also interesting that Ventrell Miller not only has the open runway, and not like that doesn't mean that they won't draft a rookie and he still have to compete. This team, obviously, we just talked about this. They obviously believe in competition to a core. Cool. That's a good thing. But also, it still does mean, as far as the early points in camp, it's going to be his role, knowing the defense and everything else. And it's then his job to not lose that small edge that he does have, and having the year ahead of whoever is brought in at a later date. But not to mention, I also have to believe on some level that they probably want Ventrell Miller to win that job. And I do mean, because again, he's a guy who would then be developed. He's a guy, if you did want to re-up his contract, that you probably would get reasonably cheap, especially if you were to negotiate that in 5-6 games like they did to Cole Van Lannon on a small sample size. And even if they didn't choose to re-up him at some point in the season, then they'd probably get a comp pick for him at the end of the year, because he's in the last year of his contract. Like, from a lot of ways, they probably would want Ventrell to be the guy in that role. At least the option to lose it early on, if that makes any kind of sense. So I agree with you. Ventrell is probably the guy in that runway is open scenario.
Yeah, that one seemed relatively easy for me. You know, I don't think we're blowing any minds here.
Yeah.
This next one is where it's going to start getting a little compelling. And by the way, real quick, I got to answer Storm's question because I think it's relevant to the conversation. Cool. Storm the Desert asked, does the BTJ bounce back count? No, that's a comeback, not a breakout. Like, the BTJ broke out because he's catching passes like a madman from McCorkle Jones. The fact that the fantasy football community knows who he is and thinks he's getting traded is proof of breakout already. It's a good question, Storm. I'm just telling you the lens through which we peer, so to speak. Social Alky, I can't show that comment yet because it's a spoiler, but I will definitely mark it as a favorite to come back to it. Anyways,
I'm probably going to have some people mad at me because I have another guy who technically is a comeback, but I think actually might belong on this list, but we'll talk about him later.
Again, don't worry. We have plenty of graphics. I won't use Frank on you, but we have plenty of graphics if I need to show my my disdain. But next on the list,
okay, so
is Caleb.
This is where I know we disagree, and I'm okay with it. It's okay. But Caleb Ransaw is not a situation where the runway is open. It's not. It is absolutely. Yeah, he's actually closer to the snatch the job area as far as the tiers are concerned. But the reason I have to believe that it's going to be a real situation where I think he'll be given an opportunity to truly compete with Eric Murray for that other safety spot. Like, I think Antonio Johnson's done enough to earn the other safety role. And Eric Murray, while he played incredible earlier in the season, had a few plays where I just was like, dang, you can't do that, because you're only brought in to be the guy to make sure that the defense is in the right spots, that don't bust coverages and things like that. And then you have a lot of coverage bust later in the season. I can absolutely see if Caleb Ransaw is the guy who they think he is, that then they end up using him in that Eric Murray spot, filling the alley, playing, in that slot role. I say slot, but like the safety coming in, being the box safety kind of role. And that's where I'm like, it just depends on how he comes back from injury. It depends on if he is who they thought he was when they drafted him, and you just haven't seen him in pass enough to truly know. But that's why I put him right at that verge of being where the runway is open versus having to snatch the job from the next guy.
I agree. There's an element here where it's he's still an unknown quantity, right? Because he was injured so early into the season, all this and all of that. Ransaw better be starting this year, week 1, says PJ Brown. let me offer the devil's advocate, because I think I know where he's sitting from. At a position group amongst the DBs, which when I say that, I'm including the corners, where Travis Hunter, who's a two-way player, is being used as a corner because they're so thin. You mentioned the battle with Eric Murray. You have to think the Jaguars, with this, granted, this vaunted long tradition of 1 year, has history of making cats compete. You have to think Eric Murray's going to compete with Ransaw and Antonio Johnson, which, by the way, I don't think Antonio counts as a breakout, because I would argue that was last year to an extent.
Yeah, that already happened. That happened twice.
But there could be more for him, I think is a great point from you, Social Alky. Yeah, I think
more snaps, more higher levels of that becoming a true in an upper echelon of safeties versus being a guy who you believe can do it. Now a guy actually doing it. That's different for Antonio Johnson, but he's kind of broken out. It's just whether or not he's
broken
going to be
out. It's a matter of sustainability and consistency at this juncture. So for me,
I mean, Antonio Johnson is almost equivalent to what Parker Washington did, and no one gives him the credit of doing it. Like he ended up being the top safety in the NFL for the last like half of the year. So did Parker Washington end up being a top wide receiver in the second half of the year, but everyone pays attention to it because of fantasy football. Antonio Johnson did the same thing on the defensive side. It's just no one's paying attention because he's a safety.
Right. And also the same people that are complaining that Travis Hunter's about to play corner more than receiver, that same ilk of analysis. I agree with you. So
where do you land on Caleb Ransaw? Is he going to be either snatch the job tier, or
I think he's the snatch the job to steal the role candidate, right? I definitely am aligned to that. You said I wouldn't agree. You're wrong.
I was borderline. It's okay.
but again, I can see the argument for putting him in the top tier because of the thinness at the position that you point out. But if he were a guy that we saw do things last year, like let's say he was playing and he supplanted Dewey Wingard earlier in the season when he was struggling successfully, that would be the opportunity. And if he had done that, that would be what would put him into that top tier. He's just not there yet. I think Greg Ross says it in the comments. Ransaw will be very interesting. Nickel or hybrid linebacker dime? I don't know about that.
It's the same. It's the same thing. Yeah. Essentially, it's the same thing. I mean, that's kind of how they used Dewey on a few packages last year when those three safety sets. It's not a where they line up versus being on the field and how they're used are the two different conversations. So, yeah, I'm fine with the thought process of how they'll use them in that way because they just want to get the best five guys on the field as far as that secondary is concerned and just figure it out from there, especially on passing downs.
Tapa says it best here. We don't know if Ransaw is awesome. He had flashes at camp, but never saw it in preseason games due to injury. Is built on being competitive, 100%. So next on the list here that you have of your individuals, and I'm glad you put this guy here on the list. The new man himself from the former Commander, Chris Rodriguez, the running back. Man, listen, I'm going to say it before you can say it. I'm going to pound this table hard because he's going to be what Tank Bigsby was supposed to be. The runway's open. Okay? The runway's open. The only thing that would slow his approach is the fact that the running back position here in Jacksonville has, it was meant to be a committee, but they ended up going to one guy because the other guys in the committee weren't performing. No disrespect to Darius Johnson or Tank Bigsby, but that was just the facts of the case. Okay.
No, I'm with you. This is funny that we actually agree here. I actually do think the runway is open for Chris Rodriguez, and it's to say, hey, the job is going to be Bhayshul Tuten's, but even if the job were Bhayshul Tuten's, Chris Rodriguez was going to get, 40% of the snaps. I feel like that's a bare minimum, realistically. It just depends on if he's comes in still knowing the offense, still being a little, he's obviously a little bit acclimated to Liam Coen and everything else already playing for him at University of Kentucky. But things are a little bit different. But for the most part, just being the physical specimen that he is and the way that he runs, he's going to have the reps. Now you get into the conversation of, hey, man, it's quite possible that he could overtake Bhayshul Tuten early on, and instead of it getting 40% of the snaps, get 60% of the snaps. I don't see that being such a crazy thing where it's truly Bhayshul Tuten 1A, Chris Rodriguez 1B, and that probably should be folks at understanding of this until they see more early in camp. So yeah, the runway is it's undoubtedly open for me.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that, especially, and we've mentioned, everybody's mentioned the familiarity with Liam Coen enough, in that
space. And it was funny that he's going back to he was number 36 for Washington, and now he's going back to his number 24, which is what he wore in college at Kentucky. I just thought that was a funny little. All right.
I'm with that. A few things I want to point out here that I think are interesting with the Ransaw conversation. I saw that one already. It's already this. PJ Brown. I think Jarian Jones is going to be the dime defensive back, which is why I want Ransaw starting at safety, because Jordan will probably be the nickel in that package. That's interesting.
Whoever's starting at the nickel spot, whoever's starting, like whether it's Jordan or whether it's Jarian, we'll see how quickly Jordan comes back from injury. Obviously, coming off of a surgery. We'll see. So because of all the moving parts and not even knowing how quickly Travis Hunter is going to come back from injury, from his surgery. Like there's so many moving pieces there. I don't really care who's starting at what spot. It's just get the 4 or 5 best guys on the field and those passing downs, and see where it lands. Because again, they played a lot of 3 safety sets last year, but they can also pivot that this year and play more, 4 cornerback sets. It doesn't make much of a difference to me. Just get the best guys out there.
Yeah, and PJ Brown to that same ilk mentions if they do, meaning break out and get better, I think Eric Murray is gone by week 1. Can you rule that out? Especially, dude, the F them picks guy, it needs more comp picks with which to be F'd, right? Or he needs more picks in general from trades, right? And you would get something for Eric Murray out there in the market, as thin as the safety position is in the NFL, let alone on X team, right?
I think they'd probably keep him on the roster.
I do too, but I'm just saying the possibility exists. Like, you can't take it off the board. Yeah.
That's fair.
Cool.
Jesus.
You guys are rattling in the comments. I can't keep up with you today, but
there's a lot of guys to talk about. So
we do. You had quite a long list to go through for Breakout, sir. And
that's the fun part. I promise you. I'm not. All right, let me be very clear. There are more guys who I could have named, and I'm telling you guys who we're not going to talk about, just to make sure. I chose to keep this conversation reasonably short. Just trust me on this. I went through it. Walker Little is not part of this conversation. Like, should he even remain on the roster without being traded? Because he actually does have a legitimate shot at working at right guard against Patrick McCarr and winning that role. Like, I didn't name him.
Right.
Kiwi Rose. And I know you're like, who? No, the only other nose tackle that you actually have on this roster right now, the only other zero technique who can actually take double teams right now. He's a Devon Hamilton injury away from a significant role on this team because they don't have any other options right now until the draft. We'll see what goes there.
People are here in the comments about Christian Wilkins. I don't think that's going to happen. But I can't rule it out either. My read is that Liam Coen would be questioned whether or not he's a fit up here in the building, but
type of guy,
yeah.
And Matt Dickerson could be in the same position as Kiwi Rose. Like if Eric Armstead has an injury this year, we've already seen flashes from Matt Dickerson. It just depends on what's going to happen. Like if Eric Armstead gets injured, he could be another guy. Like there's way more guys I could have named to potentially have an opening in 2026. I just didn't want to come out here and name every dang name on this freaking roster as a developmental option. We'd be here all day, first of all. And also, I didn't want this shouldn't be a homer podcast in that way. Like, I wanted to name guys who I realistically believe have a true fit without something insane happening, if that makes sense.
Yeah. By the way, quick shout in the comments. Tafani, first time catching a live, even if I'm 35 minutes late. Love we all do. Hey, man, we don't care if you're late. We ain't keeping you to it. And whatever you missed, you can always check out on the podcast or on the Duval Dive YouTube channel.
There we go.
If you go ahead
later, we love it. This ain't school. This ain't school. You don't need a pass. We got you, bro. Or ma'am.
I'm not following the order you had. But this is a name that's starting to pop up in the comments a ton that we brought up defensive tackles. So I'm taking hosting license and bringing it up now. Well, they're starting to ask about. Wait, go ahead, Travis.
Who are they asking about? Go ahead. Let's see this.
Maason Smith, a breakout candidate, please.
So if they want to get into the long, let's talk about it. We can get into it. Let's get into our underdogs, our long shot candidates, because this is the tier of guys who I think, they deserve to be talked about a little bit. And I put Dewey Wingert there because he was often under thought about, undersold. No one really wanted him to be the starting option, and he reasonably played well within spurts. So someone says, I saw that Maason, and I know it's put up or shut up time. This goes back to one of our mailbag questions. Someone asked, hey, what do we do with Maason Smith? This has been an offseason question often, and we've seen on the socials his personal trainer put out the different things showing that he's working out. I know he came into the league at 306 pounds, but then they put on that he's 6'5", 320. And I'm like, wait, has Maason gained weight? Did I miss that? If that is the case, and if he's truly like getting in, if that's good weight and better weight as far as that's concerned, then hey, that's a different kind of conversation. Could be good for the Jaguars, but at this current moment in time, it's absolutely put up or shut up time. Like, this is one of those situations where who knows where it's going to land, but yeah, this is going to be his opportunity, and it depends on what they do in the draft, because we might be having this conversation now, and they add a few other, 3 tech defensive tackle options where he's not even going to be able to make this opening day roster. Or if he truly is up to 320, then he could be a potential nose tackle option if he truly has that part of that game in his bag, which I just don't know. I haven't seen it yet, if that makes sense.
Well, and I'm pretty sure you and I agree on this one. I'm not going to put him necessarily in the D tier, but got to prove it. This is the staple for it. I think the only reason Maason Smith has a shot is A, the workouts that you were talking about and that you showed in here earlier, and B, the fact that they're that thin at the position, and C, lastly, this is an environment where they let guys fight for it. You guys
on the field, bro.
You guys,
no, just so you know, D tier don't even exist. That was actually a mistake. Oh. D tier don't exist at all, so we're good.
I don't know. Is it? You were too nice to put the bar is in hell.
But there is another guy. There's actually 2 other guys that I thought we should probably put in that whole gotta prove it tier. Like the guys who I think you got to show me on tape. This is what it comes down to for me. And like it's Jack Kiser is one of them. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to say that he's not the player they thought he was. I'm saying I don't know enough as far as like he was a reasonably like solid, reasonably stout, I believe he was 25 years old at the time of drafting, like leader of the defense. But as far as what he is in the NFL, I truly don't know. And I feel like I need to see more from him in 2026 to truly make me believe that he's going to be a real breakout candidate versus just a guy to take that Chad Muma spot and play a little bit of special teams and just be a backup linebacker, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the opportunity is there. So, I mean, kind of by default, I just don't see it rising up because at least at this point, I mean, especially if they draft the linebacker, if they end up with Hill as many of the Duval
he's bad on the chart.
Yeah, and then that's straight up, and granted, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with his talent, but the bar is in hell because the room is crowded, right? It's the same thing that has Jake Bobo possibly in this building is a crowded room.
Another guy though, Christian Braswell. That's another one because again, we talked about Jordan Lewis, we talked about Travis Hunter, both coming off surgery. He's your only other outside corner that's actively on the roster right now, and he will be on what I believe the final year of his contract, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's an exclusive rights free agent, so yeah, he's going to be on a 1-year contract. That's another guy who I'm not saying that the Jaguars want him to be the outside corner. Like I'm not putting this in the Ventrell Miller category of things, but I am saying that there's an opportunity for him to kind of show something, but he's going to have to show it because no one's going to assume that that's going to be the case when you got Travis Hunter playing corner. You got Montero Brown on the opposite side, but he will have a legitimate opportunity as you've already seen in this Jacksonville Jaguars new regime.
Yeah, I don't know what more I can add to that. I'll say this. We've already placed. Why isn't it working? We've already placed.
Interesting. There
we go. We already placed the tier for Jack Kiser, and Maason Smith has got to prove it. I kind of think it's somewhere between promising potential and got to prove it with Christian Braswell for me, Travis, because the reason I think because the room is thin, he has an opportunity. When the room's that thin, a guy like Christian Braswell, who has appeared at times when he's needed and struggled at the same time, it's somewhere in the middle to prove it. I obviously reserve the right to see how his preseason goes before I, pound the table for which tier exactly. But yeah, I don't think
he didn't seem like he didn't belong. We just haven't seen a lot of him, but that's fair. I mean, I guess that's not so different than the Montero Brown situation. If you just gave him significant snaps, maybe he shows up, maybe he doesn't, but it's a coin flip at that point. I'm with you there.
So, and I'm going to address this because we addressed it earlier quickly for Social Alky. Parker's broken out, okay? Like when Itchian's over there saying, shoot, pocket ass somewhere, and he has 700 yards after, not playing full-time in how many games, over and above a special teams contribution, dude's broke out.
They are interviewing this dude on the Golf Channel, bro. On the PGA Golf Channel. Ain't no more broken. This is we know who he is.
The only way you get more broken as if you're thinking of that hit on Justin Herbert.
Jesus, like, I'm like, how much more broken we need? It's the streets are talking. Like we are good. He is broken out. That is not a secret to the league.
But now he's your full-time slot wide receiver. Social. That's exactly our point. That's why he's broken out. He is here. He has arrived.
That is it.
Come on, man. We're not saying we dislike Parker Washington. You're asking where he is on the breakout list. I'm telling you, he broke out. Now he's in that BTJ year 2 piece, or his version of it.
That's fair. Yeah. So like we still got to get back into that whole who are your guys that can steal the show? Who are your guys that can steal the roles or steal the job that's ahead of them, right? Like that's what I'm kind of interested about. Who are the guys? They aren't necessarily, they don't have the open runway. They don't have the high draft stock or anything along those lines, or the high contracts that say they have to have the job. They're just guys who are right behind another guy who may not have a job on lock, if that makes sense. Like, I think personally, just me, I could be wrong. That's where Wyatt Milum probably belongs. And the guys that you have Patrick McCarry, who's already there starting right guard. You have Wyatt Milum, who's shown flashes in early camp, wasn't able to steal the job in the 2025 season, but we saw enough to make us think, and everything you're hearing from the staff is like that we believe that we got something there. That's where he probably belongs, in that second tier for Milum, as far as, like, I don't know where you land on that, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, I would not be shocked if he has that role early in camp.
Yeah. Patrick McCarry is expensive and has proven that he might have health issues. He might be in that part of his career where he's useless. When it comes to where
damn, I didn't say that.
Useless is too strong because when you're hurt, you can't help. That's why you're useless. It's not done. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, and that was more harsh than I meant. I appreciate you correcting me on that. What I mean, useless, just unable to perform like you used to because you're hurt. Patrick McCarry's got a great career, in my opinion. But if you're hurt like this in a group that's in the second year of their 2-year line rebuild, and they're trying to bake Rodriguez and C-Rod in, that guard position is going to be more important. But unrelated is a player we haven't yet mentioned yet, but I'm going to say is the most maligned Jacksonville Jaguar on the roster, and that's Walker Little. If they retain Walker Little and McCarry continues to struggle in camp, Cole Van Lanen, unless he gets hurt again or something goes completely wrong, is the left tackle. I don't see the starting left tackle in the building right now other than Cole Van Lanen, unless they draft a dude, and he would have to be an amazing steal or somebody that Jimmy Stone's traded up to get, because then you're talking about a day 2, day 3 guy that would be taking over at left tackle. I don't think that's happening.
Well, I already promised the people I wasn't going to mention Walker Little in this one. So I have no words on this one.
I'm not saying Walker Little is the breakout guy. I'm saying what determines Wyatt Milum's fate is whether or not he's still on the roster. Because if they move Walker Little in his contract, which I know the Duval Divers and Duval Devout alike are hoping will take place, suddenly it's just one man that Wyatt Milum has to crawl through. That changes everything.
Right? Well, I don't see there being multiple guys he has to crawl through. I guess that's where I'm a little bit.
That's what I'm saying. If McCarry, I see a world based on McCarry's health that Walker Little becomes the starting guard.
I got you. I don't know that Walker Little's a better option than Wyatt Milum. I think they're very close, and that's where I'm like. So I think that's what it sounds like. You're assuming that Walker Little would be ahead of Wyatt Milum. I think it's just. I'm not even sure if I believe that, honestly, but. That's between them and their competition in camp. You know what I mean?
We're saying here, exactly. Everything we say here, and we got to reiterate it just to make sure you, me, and everybody here amongst the Duval Devout and beyond understands everything here we're saying is in pencil. And it's not necessarily because it's this early in the year. There were plenty of things where it was early in the year in the previous regime, and we knew it was a fact. And it wasn't just Trevor Lawrence, by the way. Okay? So, but it's different here. That competition is the reason why it's all in pencil that we keep talking about. And the fewer obstacles for Wyatt Milum that exist, the easier it is for him to attain breakout status. And you know, I know.
So again, I put Wyatt Milum in that snatch the job category, but honestly, I also put Jalen McLeod there, and I know that's a weird one. I'm well aware that some people agree with me, some people don't agree with me.
Caught up yet? Okay, hold on. So
yeah. Let's not moving. It's just two guys I have in the same category, and I know that that's one that folks might disagree with me on, and that's the weird part about it.
Before you jump ahead, like, but where would you put Wyatt Milum in this particular instance, right? Because
I put Wyatt Milum in the snatch the job second tier, the steal the role candidates, next to Caleb Ransaw.
You are that bold. Okay, I agree. I didn't know if we were talking promising potential or steal the role, but I agree with you. I think that's where my Wyatt Milum should be. And
it's not open, but it's cracked. The door's cracked. The door ain't wide open, but the door is absolutely cracked if he wants to steal that role and step it up a little bit.
Yeah, well, if they move, Walker Little, I might even kick him into the top tier because Macari's coming in as a veteran, aging guy, expensive perhaps, but this is the same kind of thing. Interesting enough that, you know, if Cole Van Lannon were in that position last year instead of being hurt, you know, then we're
Cole
talking
Van Lannon and Walker Little. It's Cole Van Lannon and Walker Little was the exact same thing as Montero Brown and Travis and Tyson Campbell. It's the very similar situations. With you got guys who gets hurt, all of a sudden they're just not able to get their job back. And actually, that's where I'm kind of again. Well, before we go forward, because again, I still got to get back to Jalen McLeod because he is another guy that I put in the snatch the job category. Even though Gardeck just got re-signed to a 2-year contract, they just didn't see anything from Jalen McLeod because he was injured early on, and even what they got to see from him late in the year, he basically spent the entire year on IR. But if you believe that he is the guy that you drafted, if you believe he is truly a guy with that pass rush chops of that 19% pass rush win rate in college, then you have to believe that he may have a legitimate chance of taking that job from Gardeck. As good as Gardeck was in flashes, Gardeck, you know, he wasn't necessarily like this mind-blowing, consistent pass rusher. Hey, I don't care. The opinions expressed in this segment are those of the speaker alone and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Do or Die podcast. We all have.
I'm not saying you're having a Snickers moment, Travis, but this is the most un-Travis D. Holmes moment I think I've seen from you in some time. Promise to bleep you me promise. What? Promise.
I generally don't believe in potential, but the guy also had the whole year. But the guy also had the whole year on IR. So we literally is a lot like Caleb Ransaw. He also is a guy. I'm looking at what I saw on tape in college and whether or not that's transferable. And then you also have on the other side of it, again, not a Patrick McCarry moment where the door is cracked open, but something close to that where I don't think the guy was so good in that role for as far as Dennis Gardeck is concerned that it would take a lot to beat that guy out of the role. That's kind of where I'm landing on that when I say Jalen McLeod versus that.
When he gets there, it's going to be very, I'm going to say, it's not going to be full Cole Van Lannon-ish. It's going to be more like, to keep the right analogy, in my opinion, it's going to be more BJ Green-ish, maybe perhaps. You've shown you got something that maybe he's not going to full break out. I can't agree with the stealing the role, especially in a room that crowded. I have him at promising potential. I'm not going to go full gotta prove it because I don't think he's bad. It's that ambiguity as well that keeps me from putting him at bottom tier.
If he were to steal that role from Dennis Gardeck, not saying it's going to happen, but saying if it were to happen, he would be getting around 35 to 40% of snaps, mostly rushing the passer. You would be in a position to do some real damage at that Sam linebacker role at that point. So I'm not saying it's necessarily got to happen, but I'm saying if it were to happen, he could be a breakout player in all uses of the term. Like,
sure, but everybody could be in this front office because they're given the opportunity. We have no evidence to see he will claim that opportunity.
We have no evidence to see Caleb Ransaw either, but
the room is thinner.
The draft pick.
But the room is thinner.
I don't think that room's thinner. I think the Sam linebacker room is as thin as can be. It's Dennis Gardeck and who else? Yasir Abdullah? Cool. That don't mean nothing. Like, I'm not saying that don't mean nothing, but I'm saying that's a veteran who hasn't shown you much of anything versus a rookie who hasn't shown you anything. I'll give the edge to the rookie at that point, if that makes sense.
That's interesting too. This could be a whole podcast. But the only difference is it's two people in the way. It's the same thing that keeps Wyatt Milum from being at the top tier. There's two people
in the way. It's Eric Murray and Antonio Johnson in the way of Caleb Ransaw, but we ain't talking about that.
We're also talking about Eric Murray potentially being out of the building and being looked to be actively replaced, right? I need to check how old Dennis Gardeck is, I'll be honest, but he ain't Eric Murray old, I don't think.
I think Eric Murray was signed I think they're both actually over 30 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I didn't realize Gardeck was that old. And that does change the conversation some. Still, though, I don't know what it is exactly.
Yeah, Dennis Gardeck is 31 years old, and Eric Murray, again, I believe Eric Murray was signed over 30 years old. So, Eric Murray's 32 years old. So, yeah, they're both in that same range.
And you mentioned the whole old man strong thing, but I don't think that applies for Dennis Gardeck.
I think being old is an actual negative in this roster, in this regime. I think being younger is actually a positive. Sure. It's younger is cheaper, and it's our guys.
About at as a DB versus up front, the defensive front. And man, see, here's the other thing. You've been way higher on McLeod. For context, the reason why this rift isn't a surprise is you've been way higher on McLeod than I have been.
Day one.
And from day one, he was my least favorite pick made. Not again, not a bad. I intentionally don't say bad. I am saying least favorite. Because everything you say could be true, and we could have to play the Frank clip for me again, because I got another one wrong.
Yeah, we should absolutely give people that context. Yeah, that I have that bias, and anybody who's a long-time listener of the Duval Dive is well aware. It's a bias. Whether or not it's a negative, whether or not it's a negative thing or positive thing, doesn't change the fact that it is a bias.
It's just a different perspective. But go ahead.
You guys know I have that bias. I had the bias to Eric Murray. I was the one that watched every game from the Houston Texans and told y'all he was going to have a good season in 2025, and it came to pass because we were like, no, the film says he is. I don't care about what PFF says. I watched the film, and we didn't see anything other than him getting done up by Justin Jefferson on a few times in that game, and that's what happened to most guys. I'm sorry. So overall, I thought that he was going to have a good season. He did. He did have a few of those coverage busts later in the season. I feel the same way watching, Jalen McLeod game tape from college. That's just kind of where I feel about it. And that means that my bias is basically due to my opinion on watching the tape. That doesn't mean I can't be wrong. So that's why I'm showing everybody else who's new to the listener. I am biased in some ways because I have my opinion. And until I see something on the grass that takes me off that opinion, I'm not going to change it. That's basically what it
bias.
is.
That's observation. I think you're being a little hard on yourself, but your point is well made. This is a difference in perspective that you and I have.
Yeah, sure. And I can own that. That's all that I'm really trying to get at the end of the day. So we have, a few other guys that we just haven't even talked about yet, which is that this is where I'm putting a lot of guys in that whole you never know category. That whole coin flip guys. They've shown past promise in flashes or in real, small sample sizes, but guys who maybe even, with a camp or in-season injury could take a role and never look back, like Antonio Johnson did in 2025. Mm-hmm. Like he gave you the flashes, but you never really thought that was going to be entering the season. Like that's the guys that I'm talking about. You never know. Like even Parker Washington, he came into the season in a wide receiver room with Brian Thomas Jr. drafting Travis Hunter. Nobody was talking about Parker Washington entering the season, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. He was a guy buried on a depth chart. And injuries happened in the middle of the season, and he never looked back. That's what I mean.
And I was hinting that there's a possibility to move off of him because the room's getting crowded. Boy, did he make me look dumb. Where's the Frank clip?
Right.
No, but I think you got something there with some of these guys. Here's what I'm going to say is
so let's start with the guy. Let's start with the guys you agree with. Who are guys who you think should be in this category?
Well, I'm going to lead with this, and because I want to break them out separately. Because the room is thinner today at defensive tackle, I don't think they're long shots.
Okay,
but they're not runways either, right?
So who's they?
I'm going to say this. Here's where I think you're flat wrong. Okay, at the very least.
Oh wait, I can't see your if you're sharing your screen. There you go.
I'm not yet. Tight end Quintin Morris is at least a promising potential, if not a steal the role candidate for the second tight end. Because in this offense, two things I think are going to be inevitable, right? And I'm saying this in this way, not to disparage Britton Strange. To disparage Britton would be very strange. But the way he's utilized the human body, trying to keep that up over 17 games at a full clip, is going to be very difficult. Quintin Morris is going to be a dude that can keep that from happening. All right. Think of what Tank Bigsby was supposed to be for Travis Etienne when he was here. Okay. I think from that alone, hell, I mean, if I want to go full balls to the wall on this, I can even say he's an open runway for the second tight end candidate, but they may still draft the guy. I think Quintin Morris is
I'm asking for breakout candidate if he could have it, not the second tight end, for the first tight end position. If there's a potential for him, that's the reason I'm having this conversation similar to Parker Washington, because Parker Washington doesn't happen if you don't have the injuries to the wide receiver room between Travis Hunter, between De'Ami Brown even playing how he played and also being injured, between Brian Thomas Jr. also being injured at that point in the season. That doesn't happen without that injury. So I'm not saying that he could take the role from Britton Strange. I'm saying if an injury happens or something along those lines, is that a guy who you have seen enough flashes for that you reasonably believe could be a breakout candidate if they were used in similar fashion?
So, and that's the thing. And the comment Robert makes here, Morris took a role. Yeah, and that's the second tight end. However, you have adjusted the bar, which I respect. This isn't me talking trash. Right. This is me altering my perspective. So with that being mine, if the bar is tight end 1, then he at least has potential, because Britton Strange will miss time at some point. How much time he misses is the issue. And again, not disparaging him, that role's just that tough. Okay.
It is.
So he's going to get reps. Do I think he'll beat out Britton Strange? No. But yeah, it's going to be an injury thing. But that's why I put him at potential to break out, because when Britton gets hurt, if it's for a long time, I think he'll be the hottest fantasy pickup in the world, and they'll just be like, "Oh man, I got this. Thank God I didn't think about Brian Thomas Jr. getting traded." Dummies. Anyway,
yeah.
And there's another one that's coming up here in the comments too that we need to touch down. Do we think Cooper Hodges is done?
Let's talk about it.
I don't think he's done, Social Alky. But what I am going to say is that he is a long shot. Okay. I think he's got no better a chance than Jack Kiser.
Maason Smith.
I think he's got a better chance than Maason Smith. I'll be honest. I mean, look, I personally think Maason is cooked, but that's me.
Okay.
But Cooper Hodges' problem is the room starting to fill up. Is the room?
So that's interesting. So I'm because I actually think Maason. It's not Maason. I actually think Cooper Hodges deserves is a hard word, but I think Cooper Hodges probably should not be in the gotta prove it on the field situation. And I actually think he's shown enough in the previous regime, in the previous scheme, promise that you're like, all right, I think this dude actually you might have something there. Because he's shown it on 2 different occasions, and both times he got injured. His biggest issue was just not being able to stay on the field.
And what's the best ability, Travis? That's my issue.
Availability. No, you're not wrong. But if he's able to stay on the field, this is a different conversation where we can at least start evaluating it. But I don't disagree that, that's what Zena says. He seems okay when he made the field, but sadly, he's just as unlucky with those legs. And that's fair.
Perfect way to put it.
I know. Yeah. With those legs, but I think it's at least an opening. It's at least an opportunity when you're already having the conversation talking about the potential of Walker Little playing at right guard. The fact that you're talking about potentially Wyatt Milum playing at right guard, that's just another guy who maybe he's not in the steal the role conversation, but he's definitely, I feel like, squarely in that you never know range, because he's shown us the promise on film in a different scheme that was generally didn't have very many road graders, and he actually was able to move guys a little bit.
So and the injury proneness is a factor, sure.
Right.
I would ask this: when you're speaking about Cooper Hodges, what spot do you think he would plug in? Now, keep in mind, the bar is for starters losing their jobs to a guy. That's what you've established here earlier.
Right.
which I'm not dissing it. I'm just reiterating.
Right. Outside of injuries, discounting injuries. Yeah.
I think Cooper Hodges is a great backup to have on the roster, and I think he'll be kept in the building for that purpose. He's not going to get a big old giant contract to do it either. I think that's the smart move. But when you talk about guys replacing guys, we're mostly talking about at the guard position where it is alleged that, they are the weakest. Is that right in guard and at the center spot, right?
Ezra Cleveland gets injured, left guard. What do you do?
I'm leaving Ezra out on purpose.
No. I know. But this is a conversation that we're talking about breakout guys. We're talking about Wyatt Milum being able to snatch that right guard position. Cool, I'm with you there. But if we're talking about the third category of guys who you never know if the injuries happen or something along those lines, that they can step up.
And the question is,
third category.
I can answer and completely thwart you. Okay. Ezra Cleveland gets replaced at left guard by Walker Little, and then Wyatt Milum starts at right guard.
Man, we'll see. I don't know, because I don't know that. Again, I don't. You are higher on Walker Little at guard than I am. We've established that on the Jamal St. Cyr podcast. I got you. I understand.
And a lot of
I'm not as high.
There's pressure to do it. Granted, less with this front office than in the past, but there's still something to that.
So I'm aware that, again, my opinion is different than yours. You believe Walker Little will be at one of the guard spots. I believe that'd be a Wyatt Milum situation at right guard, or maybe Wyatt Milum at right guard and potential Cooper Hodges or Patrick McCarry or whoever at the other spot.
But
I just don't know. I just don't know if Patrick McCarry doesn't win his role. I don't know that Patrick McCarry and Wyatt and Walker Little are both on the roster at the same time. You can't have two guys making that kind of money, both being backups, if that makes sense.
That completely makes sense. But with all that in mind, another factor that you've forgotten in this conversation, but have included in your tiers, comes up in Zenith's comment. Got to compete with Jonah Monheim as well. So now your question becomes,
Monheim's mostly a center, but yeah, you're not wrong. You played all of it.
So at that point, your question becomes, does Monheim, if Monheim's a long shot, then they're both long shots.
Well, I think Monheim's going to be on this roster as a backup center, point blank, period. Like, that's definitely got to be the case.
But that's not the bar. The bar is if they're going to end up with a starting spot regularly contributing, right?
All right, long shot. I ain't going to argue with you on it. It's fine.
And again, it ain't Monheim's fault, but how you feel about Monheim would also dictate where you put Cooper Hodges, is my point.
Probably, yeah. And they actually brought in Monheim, and they didn't bring in Cooper Hodges versus just having him.
That's another very relevant point. This group acquired Jonah, and yeah. So I don't. Again, this is what I meant by a crowded room, Travis Holmes. And like
the offensive line, and that's a good thing to have a crowded room at offensive line when you really want to raise that ceiling up. So that's a good situation for Jaguars, and it needs to get more crowded. They need to add two more. Personally.
I agree. And in the comments, Zenith, Hodges better than Chuma. We don't know enough yet, but I do know for a fact that Hodges has never been, on multiple occasions, called for offsides when lined up in an overshifted line against a tight end. I know that hasn't happened.
You're never going to let that go.
No, I'm not, because that's just listen, the same way you can't get past Tim Patrick in Arizona, I can't get past those flags. Okay? So same bleeding thing.
That's fair. At least he ain't on his roster though. So that's from my side. I'm like, well, one of those guys ain't on his roster anymore, so we can laugh about it. But it is what it is.
Fair enough.
So this is the other one. Ray Lane.
Yes,
I thought Ray Lane showed that he belonged in his small snaps on defense last season. Whenever they ran those three safety sets, like he generally was a little bit conservative. It's a safety position. You don't want to get beat over the top. I fully understand that, especially when they were playing a lot of that cover four. But I didn't think that he was seemed to be like out there wide-eyed or anything along those lines. We already knew he was good at special teams, so that wasn't even a conversation. I thought he's shown some promising potential, but the conversation still became back to whether or not this guy is someone who can truly steal that role. Like, you're going to have Antonio Johnson, as it currently stands, at least on the last year of his contract. So is Ray Lane a guy who can truly make this thing difficult for someone for the team talk about re-signing Antonio Johnson versus allowing him to come to the end of his contract and just get that comp pick for when he gets signed from another team? Or is that kind of one of those situations where no, we're going to let this see where it lands, and maybe Ray Lane makes things real difficult for Antonio to get paid, and he earns that role early in camp or something like that. I don't know that it's going to happen, because I still feel like it's probably edging on that long shot category, but I was questioning it just because I was like, he didn't seem like he was out of place, if that makes sense, and they brought him in.
I think you're underestimating a factor, in my opinion. And granted,
Okay.
Who am I to speak in your house? These are the corners. If you put up, this is not an opinion of the Duval dive with me saying this, I'm not even mad at it.
Nah, we'll go with this address for a second, but I got you.
I think you failed to establish, let's put this in video game terms, that Ray Lane is the mini boss that Caleb Ransaw has to beat before we even talk about him making it difficult for the other guys.
That's his first bar. That's his first boss in the level before you get to the big level, the big boss.
It's not even the end of the level. This is the mini boss before you get to the first level, and then the next level is the next two safeties. You got to get past Ray Lane first, and I don't think we're smart to consider that a gimme at this point. We have seen the spirit that Ray Lane puts in when he plays on special teams. And as he gets more familiar with this Campanile system and gets more familiar with NFL speed, the opportunity to break out in camp, huge opportunity to break out in camp, right? How do you rule that out at this juncture?
My boy called Ray Lane Bowser Jr. That's interesting.
Basically.
Okay. That's interesting.
Actually. Except the difference. I mean, they both fly around now. Granted, they need a machine to do it, but I digress.
Okay, cool. No, I'm with you. I'm okay with that. Like, so at the end of the day, you're basically saying that Ray Lane is, if I'm understanding you correctly, are you putting him in the long shot, or are you putting him in the potential category? Because I assumed that was the potential.
I'm putting him in the potential category. Now, if I was really feeling frisky until Caleb supplants Ray Lane, I might and I don't have this left to right like I probably should, but I can make the argument that if we're doing left to right was the most likely to, which I haven't done here, it would be Wyatt Milum on the left, Caleb Ransaw with Ray Lane right behind him potentially. But I don't know if I'm there.
Your availability as the best ability point is already the big one, but
he does have that extra year of development with this group. That's true, but I don't know if that's enough. We'll find out,
and I don't know if it matters. Yeah, honestly, at all. So the big conversation, obviously. Well, I can't even say the big conversation. The biggest two are guys who we all know. We know their names.
Literally big conversation.
There is BJ Green, Danny Striggow. And honestly, bro, I hate that we always say their name together. Like, I want to be honest about this. I hate that we generally put those guys' name together because they're different prospects with different growing curves, different paths, right? Like, they both showed up at the same time for this Jaguars team to provide a spark at the pass rush, and the team direly needed one. But so because of that, they're kind of always going to be linked together a little bit, and they're both undrafted free agents from last year. But
you even put their tile together. Snap.
I did. I
did. John Stockton and Karl Malone on that. I'm not mad at you. I just wasn't ready.
But Striggow's like, he's almost exactly a year older than BJ Green. And for anybody paying attention this offseason, like the teams have obviously been engaged in a pretty wide search, a pretty vast search for an additional edge 3 for help this roster. Like, I mean, whether that's Max Crosby being your edge 1, really, and I don't know how you will split that, or Trey Hendrickson or whatever else. So my biggest concern is about whether or not Striggow or Green are just going to be able to get the snaps that they earn in 2025 in this 2026 roster.
Crowded room.
Makes sense?
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, crowded room, I mean, at the top part of it. So, like, after free agency is done, after the draft is done, after everything's said and done, like, I just think that they've shown the traits, they've shown the potential to grow into something more on this roster. But to be a breakout, be a breakout guy on this roster, they need the opportunity, and I'm just not 100% sure it's going to be there by the time this draft is done, if that makes sense.
Well, and would you consider both these players edge guys?
Well, they both are kind of like big, like the small defensive tackle, big edge kind of like small 3 technique, big edge guys. Like so Am I saying that right? Yeah, I think I'm saying that right. They both can kind of be inside and outside. They have that flexibility, sort of like Calais Campbell used to always do, inside on some downs, outside on some downs. But I'm viewing them.
Trayvon Walker, right?
Oh, my, yeah, actually, yeah. So in that way, it's kind of how I look at both of those guys. But they've shown promise, but not enough where I can say that. And I think that they're actually going to have the opportunity because the team's looking for a reason. They're looking to raise that level for a reason, and they're probably going to be successful eventually somewhere. I even think even if they missed in the draft, I feel like they're probably going to add one of those veteran, edge 3 options in, after the draft is done, or one of those guys that's still on the market. So I don't know. There's promising potential for sure. I think they've done absolutely enough to do that. I just don't know that they're actually going to have the real opportunity for, as far as the runway is concerned, to get more snaps in 2025, in 2026 than they did in 2025. Like I said earlier, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, one could argue that the most crowded portion of the Jags defense is the edge spot. That argument could be made, and they're still looking for more. But
yeah, they're hoping for it to be a lot more crowded because they think they needed more crowded on the top end.
Correct.
Well, yeah, there's so many dang comments. Jesus. Because we're at an hour 15, so hopefully we'll get out of here by an hour and a half. But I want to give you guys your takes if there's anything good that you've seen there.
Yeah, no, and well, yeah, this a couple of things here too. Social Alky mentions he has high hopes for these guys. Let's see. Don't we have only 4 edges on the roster? Apparently not.
Now, granted, how you look at those guys.
Yeah, exactly. Now they moved off of Smoot, obviously. I think that's a whole other thing there too. But I remember someone mentioning Keon Thibodeau as edge 3 addition. I don't think that's happening. That would be a very expensive proposition with how he's performed at his previous spot there. Let's see. I'm looking through the comments here. But
somebody pointed out that there was no state tax. YB 4636 says there's no state tax in Washington. You guys, Florida isn't the only one.
I know Florida isn't the only one, but I'm very surprised to hear that Washington has no state tax. That's fascinating.
No, that's actually a fair point. Good comment.
I appreciate that alteration there too. I feel like there would probably be city tax in Seattle, but I'd have to look that up. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It is what it is. I'll throw this out too because I saw more than one person comment with this as well. But Zenith was the first one. Can I have a serious crackhead question? First of all, that's my job. Of course, the difference was I got it right. Was the Cephas injury real or just a stash benching? Do you think he makes the team? Well, he can't make the team because he wasn't offered a tender. But I'm more having you comment on the conspiracy theory there and the tinfoil hat theory of the injury being in quotes.
Well, so what are we really asking? Just whether or not he was stashed? Like, I feel like that was probably the case. Like, that most teams do that. Like, if they want to keep a guy on, if they want to have options depending on what happens the next season, that's not truly a shocking thing or anything like that. But yeah, he's an unrestricted free agent now. So yeah, like, he's not on the team now. As far as that's concerned, right? Like, I don't think I missed something there. I believe he wasn't tendered. So
yeah.
I don't see what else there is at this point.
If it's possible that he rejoins, but at this current moment in time, we can't work with that information. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's see in the comments, thoughts on Caleb Ransaw. Yeah, we mentioned earlier, Ifidoro, that the his opportunity is high. It's just a matter of what he shows in camp. I think is the case. Tapa asked me earlier, the Maason Smith workout video doesn't convince you. Okay, here's the problem, Tapa. I haven't uploaded the Bishop Bullwinkle music video piece yet.
Hell no.
Hell to the no. To the no. Hell no. And so that answers your question, I think.
Man, this is propaganda. This is propaganda season. Everybody work out. Like, I thought it was interesting because, like, Hines Allen, like, and that's no shade to Hines. Like, I think the man works like crazy. Like, we know he does. But when he said he woke up early in the morning and ran like 4 miles, and it took everything in my spirit not to be like, well, yeah, you're a professional NFL athlete. Yeah, that checks out.
That's the job. Exactly.
Yeah, I did that in high school, and that's not shade. That's just being like, no, of course. But God was on my side that week, and I get it, but no, it's just like, no, man, like workout videos for professional athletes. You don't think they just show up on Sundays and just play? They work out. That shouldn't change how I feel about the game tape on Sundays, though. It is what it is.
Yeah, we don't know if the problems were just physical. It kind of felt to me like he wasn't adapting to NFL speed, for lack of a better way to put it. So
I'm not sure.
That's where I'm at as well. With that in mind, the 15, I'm not throwing shade at you, I'm just pointing it out. The 15 breakout candidates we have listed on our board here. Let me zoom that back a little bit so we can see the entire piece. The 15 candidates that we have. And I like
there we go.
that we only pointed out that there were only 3 open runway obvious guys, right? And with Bhayshul Tuten, Ventrell Miller, and Chris Rodriguez. Caleb Ransaw and Wyatt Milum getting steal the role makes sense to me as well. And I think I'll put it this way. If Walker Little weren't a factor and there wasn't so much guard competition, I would put Wyatt Milum as an early favorite because, we're pretty sure he can beat Macari. I think that's a commonality here today amongst the Duval Duval, right? Jalen McLeod being on the next tier for promising potential. Christian Braswell, Quintin Morris, all of the above there too. Though I think you and I both affirm Quintin Morris is starting tight end too. Then there's no question about that until otherwise directed. And I like that Ray Lane's there too. We're acknowledging him as the mini boss for Caleb Ransaw. So that works. And then, of course, Striggow and Green, that dynamic duo there as well. The long shot.
And I wanted to point out, again, in 2025, if you were talking about the offseason heading into the season, Antonio Johnson and Parker Washington would have likely been in that promising potential category. Most people wouldn't have had them in the steal the role candidates. So I just want to point that out when we're thinking about this moving forward.
On business, Travis. I am proving I'm not above the law. I would have had Parker Washington in the long shots because of how crowded we thought that room was at the time. Because we didn't know De'Ami Brown would disappear yet, right? That's
a fair point. Yeah, what don't we know right now that we're gonna look back and be like, dang, how did we not see that? That's what I'm saying. Like Devin Lloyd was absolutely in that, maybe even between that early favorite versus steal the role candidate like last year. If we look at it, because he was a co-starter, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. We didn't know how that was going to land, if he was even going to start the season.
Travis, hold on. Let's pump the brakes a bit. What do you mean, how did we not see that? We all predicted the top 2 receivers on the roster would get hurt. No, we didn't. Of course we didn't see that. How the hell are we supposed to see that? Come on, man. Be fair. Like, I'm all for keeping us honest and not being above the law, but there's a line. Yeah. Like, ain't no soothsayers up in this beast. You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you. I'm just pointing out, so I want folks to look at this list now and think about how different we're going to look at that list next year, and just be like, dang, it really was Christian Braswell, or it really was Quintin Morris, or whatever it was, like out of the guys out of that list, or maybe it was Wyatt Milum, which most people are kind of predicting right now to be the guys, and maybe it was or wasn't one of the early favorite guys. I just think it's interesting having a coaching staff that truly develops these guys.
Maybe Maason Smith isn't really cooked. Okay, let's not go that far.
That could be. Hey man, let's talk about the crackheadiest takes, but it's possible. I don't know if it's likely, but it's possible.
You're gonna make me go search through some Dave Chappelle episodes. I like rocks.
I'm just saying it's possible. That's how we win. Bring back people from the brink of death, and all of a sudden he's giving significant or productive snaps for this team. I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's likely, but it's possible.
Okay, Zenith, get out. What? No Travis Hunter? Stop.
Well, when we get into our comeback players episode, maybe that'll be one for Travis Hunter and Walker Little and I don't even know who else.
Hey, why not Trevor Lawrence? He completed his first full season in a while. He's about to break out, right? Anyways, I'm throwing all the shade today. I'm feisty, man. What's wrong with me? Hey, let's see. What makes you higher on Wyatt Milum versus Jonah Monheim? Great question there, Ife. And I was about to address that. Why I fielded this comment. With Jonah Monheim, I think you've convinced me of something here, and that comment helped. And I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit here too, so I can demonstrate this a little better. There we go.
Yeah, this is a you answer, by the way, because remember I had Jonah Monheim in promising potential.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool. But if
we were split on that one. It's fine.
We were split on Cooper Hodges. I thought you were calling Monheim a long shot, but I'll put it this way: the reason why I like Monheim's chances better is Robert Hainsey is in the way of him playing at center. So if there's a guard injury and they go down the line, I think today Monheim swings into that guard spot ahead of Cooper Hodges. However, I think this is another one, and this coaching staff has proven time and again they will do it this way, that the opponent would dictate who they start at the guard position if they're that deep. So
I mean, I don't know, because Monheim had a great showing when he did play, and for Robert Hainsey when he got hurt and had to go up against freaking Jeffrey Simmons. I'm not gonna say it was this great game because again, freaking Simmons dominated in the run game that week. When we went back and looked at it on our rewatch, but our show don't tell did not come away being favorable. But in the passing game, Monheim did a great job against some. That's a hell of a starting first week test, we'll say. So I've still showed the promise, but at the same time, I don't know that I'm so different on those guys other than Cooper Hodges just not showing it in this scheme and for this staff.
Yeah, I'm with that. Another point here that Zenith brings up, D tackle is so thin that a guy who wasn't game day active still has a chance. Yeah, that's the point. They were defensive tackle thin when Maason Smith was drafted and he still didn't get on the field. I'm just saying.
I mean, have a chance is not the same as being a long. I mean, technically, I guess
by not having a chance, he means he was an active scratch.
Yeah, but he's on the roster. Like, I don't know. I can't say the guy has no chance if he's not on the roster. Then that's when you have no chance. But he has a chance if he comes back and prepares in the offseason like he should. Now that he's had that, now he's been slapped around a little bit as far as being a healthy scratch from two different staffs. Maybe you kind of have a come to Jesus moment. I don't know.
I say, fam, you arguing with yourself on this one, right? Big men get big dollars, okay? And the reason for that is I think Maason Smith being on the roster says less about him and more about the state of the position in the NFL.
Facts.
So
you're not wrong, but they got 3 7th round draft picks. If you truly think it was to the level of him not needing to be on the roster at all, you can absolutely replace him with a defensive tackle at that range and feel great about it. So
I really like that.
We'll know by the end of the draft.
There you go. That was a good, you know what? I'm going to give you a bell for that take, Travis. There you go. With that in mind, give the people at large out there the bell and let them know where you're being found.
Of course, you can find me on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes, and find my writing covering the Jaguars at bigcatcountry.com. If you're listening to us right now, I see all 100 of you. Hey, man, click that like button. Comment. Let us know what your thoughts are of this team. Let us know who your favorite developmental option is for this Jacksonville Jaguars roster. Put it on the comment after the stream is done, so that way we'll see it not only in the live stream, but we'll see it for the algorithm on the outside, because this thing's only growing because you guys continue commenting. We have whole conversations in this thing like it's a whole social media, like it's Facebook or Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever else with you guys, and use half of those comments to create future podcasts because y'all some ball knowers and y'all be having some interesting questions. So shout out to y'all and shout out to our channel members. We named all of you. Some of you, Brian was able to make it. Zenith, Social Alky, let's go, man. Y'all, all you guys, we appreciate you. But yeah, Duval Dive on TikTok, Duval Dive on X, Travis D. Holmes on all the socials, bigcatcountry.com. You guys know where we can be found. But let them know where you can be found, sir, just in case I missed anything there.
Well, first of all, and I'll even, you mentioned the channel members in the building. I'll give Zenith his props too for being, he wasn't all just trying to be acting a fool. He had some great questions today too, as well. I'm messing with you. That's true. So, man, listen, I know we cut jokes. I know I put Frank on my case to open the show because of the whole, no one's going to pick a guard as a breakout. And yet, sure enough, we got Wyatt Milum in the tier 2. It's great. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find my writings and work covering the UCF Knights on Locked On UCF and UCF Night Zone, as well as my work covering the Orlando Magic. And forthcoming here the Orlando Storm are about to kick off in the next week here or so. I will be covering them as well for the UFL. So make sure you look out for all of that. Might be working on a little something called the Storm Surge podcast if you're into that minor league football action. So with all that in mind, for my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, you divers that continue to make this thing fun each and every single time, this is Kyle Nash, student of the game. Until next time, everyone, I love the Dove Duval. That's fantastic, Travis. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed.